Hello guys, welcome to my channel. So today we are going to work on a new project, and this project is going to be about how can we create a ToDo application using Spring Boot, JPA, MySQL. So before we move on to this video, if you are new to my channel, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do. Now let's work on the project. So first thing first is that we are going to go with Spring Initializer. Here we have to do a few modifications, as we need Maven, language is Java, Spring Boot version is 3.0.5, and let's change the artifact. So this is going to be ToDo app. Alright, now let's add dependencies. So here we need Spring Web for Spring MVC and RESTful applications. So here we are not going to create a RESTful application, but we need Spring MVC. Then we need DevTools so that we can restart automatically without the hassle of stopping the application and then starting it all over again. Then we need JPA so that we can have a CRUD repository kind of an interface. Then we need MySQL connector. And yeah, this is it for now. We will add few more dependencies. So for now, let's generate this. So we just have to extract this zip file and then we can just import it to our IDE. So let me quickly extract this. Alright, so now I have extracted my project, so I'll simply import it via existing Maven project, and then I'll browse the location. So it is at my downloads. So there we go, and hit finish. So it will take some time depending on the internet speed to download the dependencies. Alright, so as we can see here, we have our project structure. So this is our main folder. Here we have sources, we have test folder, then we have our dependencies, and then many more. So in a pom.xml, first, to use JSP as your front end or UI language, what do you need is you need few dependencies. So let's add them. So here we would be needing two dependencies. One is going to be your Tomcat embed Jasper, and then JSTL. Now with Spring Boot 3, we cannot make this work with these many dependencies. So this would have worked pretty efficiently if we were using Spring Boot version 2. But now we are using Spring Boot version 3, so we would be needing two dependencies, two additional dependencies. So I'll go to my class path and I'll add those external jars. So what do I need here is I need Jakarta Servlet JSP GSTL, and then I need Jakarta Servlet JSP GSTL API, right? So these you can download from Maven repository. It is a simple and easy process, nothing harmful. Alright, so now we are done with this. We are done with our JSP. Now, because we are going to use UI, so it would be better if we can use some good UI frameworks. So one of them is your Bootstrap. So here if you see this dependency, so this is for Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a UI framework which help us in designing a lot of good user interfaces. And jQuery requires, because whenever we are using a framework, somewhere along you would need a jQuery supported library. So Bootstrap uses jQuery, and that is why we need to have jQuery embedded in our project. So here we are not going to use JavaScript much, but because this is going to be a full-fledged application, so it would be better if we can import jQuery from the start. Now that we are done with our dependencies, now let's actually work on the project. Alright, so first thing first is that we will make some modification to our application or properties. So first thing would be to change the port. I don't like it to be kept as default as in 8080. So you can change the port simply by doing this. Now to work with JSP we need two properties. So one is your spring.mvc.view.prefix and the other one is going to be suffix. So here the properties value is going to be like the directory structure. So the directory structure or the default directory structure is going to be web-inf and then your JSP folder, and then your suffix is going to be how your file extension is being kept. So I'm going to use JSP, so this is going to be my suffix. Now I'm going to use a database, and that is why I needed a MySQL connector. So for that I need few properties so that I can connect to my database when I'm running the application. So here I need data source properties, and remember the properties is not the only way to do this. You can achieve it using Java code as well, but properties code is much preferred because that way whenever you create a jar or a deployable file, then you don't have to change the code, you just need to change the properties file, because those properties file are going to be external to your code. So that is the benefit here. So here what do I need? I need JDBC URL, then I need username and password. So JDBC URL is going to be like JDBC : MySQL : localhost, because it is going to be at localhost, then the default port because I haven't changed anything, and lastly you need the schema name. So my schema name is ToDo app. Then username for me is root and the password is root. Alright, now we need JPA properties, and if you are not aware, JPA by default uses Hibernate as the only ORM tool. We can change that, but because I have kept it as default, I'm going to use another property, spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl auto. So with this I can either create my tables using my annotation, or I can update them using annotation. So here I'm going to keep this as update because I'm going to manually create my tables. And now we are done with our application. Let's work on our model. So first thing first is we need a package, then we would need a class. So here I'll just say model, and here I would say ToDo, and let's just say ToDo. Alright, so the class is created now. Now here I would need few properties. So first is going to be your ID, then we need a title for this ToDo, then we need till when I do want to complete this. So this date has to be something like I want to complete this item within 10 days, or let's say 20 days, something like that. So let's import date. So this is going to be java.util, And lastly we need status. So this status is going to be like whether this item is completed or incompleted. So the default value is going to be incompleted. Alright, so now let's provide them access modifier. Alright, good enough. Now let's create a constructor and then getters and setters. Alright, good enough. Now let's add the annotations. So this is going to be an entity, and here we need Jakarta annotations, and then this is going to be a table with the name ToDo. Alright, let's import this. Then this is going to be an ID with the auto generated value. So here the strategy is going to be dot auto. That's it. Now these all are just columns. You can add few data validations as well, so there are annotations for that. I did columns instead of column. Alright, so good enough. Now I think I forgot to create this structure, so here we would need that. So inside main, so first is we need web app and then this structure, so web inf and then your JSP. Alright, so we are done with our model, we are done with our structure. Now what do we need? Let's connect the table and the database in our MySQL workbench. So here you can see that I have a schema named ToDo app. So to create a schema here, you just need to click on create schema and then simply you can create a new. And as you can see, I don't have any table to do, so it's empty. So now here are two ways to do it. First is to manually create the table using either this GUI interface or writing the insert query, the create query. The second way is to make change to this from update to create and then simply run your application. So I will use this option, so I'll just click on run as Java application. Alright, so I can see that my application is started. Now let's see if we have the data. So I don't have any data, but I can see the table. So here you can see that we have ID, date, status and title, and the order is a bit different, but we have all these columns. Now let's refresh this, and we have ToDo and then we have our sequence. Now we can check the DDL as well. So here you just have to click on table inspector, and then at the very last tab you see DDL. Here you can see that we have create table query. Alright, so good enough. Now we have our model, we have our table as well. Now we need layers, as in your data access layers. So first layer is going to be our service layer, through which we are going to interact with our repository or your repo layer. So let's create the class. So the best practice is going to be to create an interface of your service class and then create a class using that interface as an implementation of that interface, right? But I'm saving some time, so I'm just directly creating the class. I'll stop this for now. and I'll annotate this with our service annotation. So here we need 4 methods. So first is to get the data, another one is to save the data, third is to delete the data, and then we would need another one to update. So these all are our CRUD operations, CRUD, create, read, update, delete. But here things are going to be a bit different. So this is going to be get all ToDo items. Then we would need get ToDo item by ID. So here we would need update status. So this is to update whether the item was completed or not. So this is going to be save or update ToDo item. Lastly, delete ToDo item. So the return type of this one is going to be list of type ToDo. Let's import both of them. This one is simply going to be ToDo, and this one will be boolean. Same goes for this one and this one. Alright, similarly we would need in our repo layer, so let's create that. So this is going to be an interface. So ToDo repo. So here we are going to do something different. We are going to use JPA. So JPA gives us JPA repository through which we can have our CRUD operation. So here we need to provide the type, so that is going to be our ToDo, and ID as in the primary ID type, which is going to be long. Let's import this and we are done. Here let's first create an object of ToDo repo, and let's auto wire this. And I think I forgot this to put as repository. Alright, and this isn't in a package, so let's do that. Let's create a package first, dot service, and let's put this here. Alright, now let's refresh, and I think I forgot to create the repo package as well, so let's do that. Alright, good enough. Now here we would need a list so that we can return it back. So ToDo list equals to new array list. Now we will use repo. So here we have find all method. on which we can iterate and put each value to our new list. Alright, good enough. Now let's return this list. So here we are going to do something similar, but here we don't need a list. So here we will use repo.find by ID, and here we will just provide the ID which we are going to receive here. So to update the status, we would need for which object we are going to update the status. Here we need .get as well. So again we will need an ID here. So we will use this method to get the object, right? So let's put this in an object, and then we will simply update the status by using setStatus method. So here I'll just put this as completed, and then I'll call method save or update ToDo item. So here I'll provide the ToDo object, and here I have to receive ToDo object. Alright, so here we have a method named save, and the entity is going to be ToDo. So this returns an object. So let's say new object or updated ToDo updated object. Now we have to confirm whether this operation was successful or not. So to check that, we can have a condition. So here we can call either repo.get by ID, or we can directly call get ToDo by ID. So here I will use updated object dot get ID, and I'll simply check if it is null or not. So if it is not null, that means that our operation was successful. Otherwise we will return false. Good enough. Now for delete, we again need an ID. So this is going to be long ID. So here we don't need to get an object, so here we will just call delete by ID, and here we can check similarly. Instead of updated object or something like that, we just need to provide the ID. So if the ID is not there, that means that it is going to be true. So here we need to check if it equals to null. So if it is actually equals to null, then that means that delete operation was successful. Otherwise we just have to return false. So this condition is the exact opposite of this one. Alright, so we are done with our service. Good enough. Now what we need is we need a controller. So let's create that. So the package is going to be controller, and let's say ToDo controller. So as we know that this is a controller, so let's annotate this as controller. Now let's create an object of ToDo service, and let's auto wire this. Alright, Now here we need few mappings, which is going to be exactly similar to what we have as methods in this class, right? So first is going to be view all items, or I can say view all to-do items. Second is going to be update to-do status, then add to-do. So this is just a get mapping so that we can have a page returned to the browser. Then we need a post mapping. So this is going to be save to-do item, and this is going to be your post mapping. Similarly, we will have two mappings for our edit. So this is going to be added to-do item, edit save to-do item. Lastly, we will have delete to-do item. Alright, so this is going to be your get mapping, and this is going to be your post mapping. Alright, so good enough with this. Now in this mapping, we have to present all the existing items, to-do items, to our UI page, which means that we need to fetch those items. So service dot get all to-do items, and then we have to return this. So for that I will use model. Let's import this. So model dot add attribute. So here let's say list, and value is going to be this, and then we need to return a page which we haven't created yet, but let's name this view to-do list. Then here what do we need? Here we need a URI. So this is going to be a slash, or it can be view to-do list. For this one, this is going to be update to-do status, and then the ID, which we will fetch in a path variable. So here we will use service dot update status. So if this is successful, then we will return or redirect to view to-do list. So if it is successful, in that case only we are returning back to our to-do list so that we can see the updated item. Otherwise we are going to come back again to this page. So you might be wondering, why are we doing this? So the only benefit is so that user can have the information whether the operation was successful or not. So for this, what we can have is we can have redirect attributes. So this is going to help us in providing the relevant information to the UI. So here we can use add flash attribute. Here we would say message and then the actual message. So I can say update success in this case. And here I would say update failure. So this message I can print on my UI. So for that I need to come back to this because I am returning this UI or this URI. So here I would need a model attribute and message and then string message. So now I will use model.add attribute again. So here I would say message and then message. So now we are done with our second mapping as well. Alright, so now let's work on add ToDo item. So as we know, this one is going to be a get mapping, because through this we are just going to throw our UI page so that the user can insert the data which is going to be added to the database so that we can view it through our view ToDo list. So let's first add the mapping here. So this is simply going to be add ToDo item, and here we will simply return the page add ToDo item. That's it. Now in our post mapping, this will be involved only when we have the data added to our view page and we try to save it using our button, which is going to be a submit button. Then only we will come to this mapping. So this is going to be a post mapping. Here we will just say save ToDo item, but here we will receive the item data. So for that we will use ToDo object, which is going to get returned when we are done filling our data to this UI page. But here we have to pass that object as well. So for this I'll use model and I'll pass this empty object so that we can fill it in our UI page. So let's name it ToDo and new ToDo. Alright, so this is the very same object which we are getting here after adding the data. So this object is going to have all the information which we want to save to our database. Now I'll use the service to call save or update ToDo item, and this is going to return a boolean value. So I'll put this in a if condition. So now I can tell if this is a success, that means that we are coming inside this if condition, otherwise the save operation was unsuccessful. So in that case I'll return back the add ToDo item, right? So here I'll use the mapping instead of the page. So I'll use redirect and then add ToDo item. Now here I have to use redirect attributes as well, so that I can pass the information to the user that what happened. So if the operation, save operation or update operation gets failed, then I want the user to know that something went wrong while saving the data, right? So that he is aware. So redirect attributes dot add flash attribute here let's say message, and here I'll simply say save failure. This can be descriptive. For now I'm just putting it as simple as possible. Now if it is a success, then I'll just copy this and modify this a bit. So I'll just say save success, and now I have to return this so that the user can see the newly added item in this page. Now we are done with our save to do item as well. Now let's come down to edit. So this is going to be a get mapping obviously, but this is going to be for a particular item. So here if I say added to do item, then this has to be for a particular item, because I can only edit a specific item, not all of them, right? So for that identification I need a variable. So here that would be the ID. So this is going to be a path variable and long ID. So now I have the item ID with me, so that I can tell for which item do you want to change the data, but we don't have the data. So for that I have to first get the data. So I can simply call service dot get to do item by ID. If I do that, I can get the object having all the already existed data, which I will show in the UI page so that user can see what information he has right now and what he wants to change. So whatever he will change on that page itself, we will fetch that object using this second mapping, which is going to be our post mapping, and then we will save that object to our database, right? So to pass this object, I'll simply use model here. So model dot add attribute, so to do, and we are good, right? And then we will simply return this new page, which is going to be added to do item. Now the save part is going to be almost similar to what we have done here. So I'll simply copy this and paste it here. So here what do we have to change is, first we have to provide the URI mapping. So this is going to be added save to do item, and here we need the updated object to do, and then we need redirect attributes. Alright, so here instead of save, this is going to be added, this one again added. So if the operation is a success, then we will just redirect back to view to do list so that the user can see the newly updated information. And if you can pinpoint right now, the method is same for save as well as edit, because this method is for both save or update operation. Now if it is a failure, then in that case I'll just respond back with this message, but now the page is going to be different. We want to come down to this URI. So here I'll just copy this and paste it down here, and then I need the ID. So for that I'll simply get that from the updated object, so get ID. Now we are good with our edit operation as well. Now let's come down to our last operation, delete operation. So delete is again going to be for a particular item, so we need the ID here. So delete to do item and then the ID. So now again we will use path variable annotation. Long ID. we would need redirect attributes. Now let's use if condition again. So if the delete operation is successful, then we will, let's copy this instead of writing it down. We will simply say delete success, otherwise it is a delete failure. Now if you notice here, we are not redirecting if it is a success, because no matter if it is a success or a failure, we want to return to our view to-do list page. So here for delete and update, it is going to be a button on the view to-do list page itself, right? So which we will see when we are working on our JSP page, but for now we are going to have only one redirect here. So return, and let's copy this. Alright, so we are good with our controller class. Now let's work on our JSP pages one by one. Alright, so now to create a JSP pages, we just have to go to source main web app, web inf and JSP. So here we will click on new file, and then we will give the name. So the first is going to be view to do list.jsp, and let me verify the name as well. So yeah, it matches with this one. Now I'll write the code here, and then I will explain line by line what it means. Alright, so this is the code that we have in our JSP, first JSP. So these are you can say our imports. So this pretty much says the type, content type that we are using here, and then we need to import forms as in form tag. So that comes from your Spring framework, and to use it we are going to use prefix as form. Similarly, we are using JSTL core tags with prefix C. Now we are using Bootstrap framework for enhancing our UI pages. So this is a framework just to beautify your pages so it looks better. So these are all the libraries that are used just for your Bootstrap, except this last one, which is for your toaster library. I'll explain this more afterwards. So these are your Bootstrap libraries where we are using jQuery to support Bootstrap. Now I have some customized CSS here just to see the data more clearly. So this is just a bit of customization which can be added or cannot be, so it's up to you. So you don't have to copy these lines. I will add the code in the repository. From there you can copy all these. Now coming down to body, so here we have our form tag, which is very necessary here. Then we have a tabular structure where we have columns as ID, title, date, status, mark completed, edit and delete. Now these three, the last three, are your buttons through which we will interact over the page. These four are your database columns, which we also had in our Pojo class. So we have ID, title, date and status. In the similar order we have ID, title, date, status in this page itself. Now we are using JSTL tag here to iterate over our list, which is coming from your view to-do list mapping. If you see here, we have added a model attribute named list, and the data is coming from your service layer using the method get all to-do items. Now we are iterating over this list, and one by one we are getting the data to this variable. Then we are presenting or populating that data through this tr. So if you have 10 rows of data in your list, then you will have 10 rows in this tabular format. So all the first 4 columns are going to be your database data. Then you have buttons here. So if you can see here, this is just to mark complete your ToDo item. The second button is to edit your ToDo item, and the last one is to delete your ToDo item. At the last of this page, you will see a button to add a new ToDo item. So this button is separate from your form, and once you click on this, you will be redirected to this URI mapping. So this is here. So this will first populate or add an empty ToDo object which you will fill on this page. So that is what it will populate or provide so that you can insert data to your database. So this is all about filling the data and seeing the data. Now we have this script here which is specifically for your Toaster library. Now let's first talk about Toaster a bit more. So this is what you get when you click on the link. By default, these options will be populated. When you click on this show toast, you will see the toast, or you can say an alert message here. So this is a success message, that is why it is in green color. If it is an info, then the color will be different, as in a blue color. If it is a warning, then it is yellow, and error would be red. Now you have position as well. You can change the position. So if you see it is bottom right now, I can change to top left as well. So now it is here. I can do it as bottom center as well. So now it is here. Now I have options here. I can change this, and as well as the duration. Now you have few more functionality here. You can have a close button, you can have a progress bar, then you can see a little progress bar here, right? And then it will fade away. The close button is just to close it manually, right? And once you are done customizing your data, then you can see options here. So if you see, this is of type error, and the message is here, which you will see when you click on show toast, right? So this is the type of message, and this is the actual message which you want to show. Now these are the options just to customize. So if it is close button equals true, then you will see a close button. If you want to debug it, then yeah, you can make it as true, and more functionality over here. Similarly, we have here. So if you see, we are fetching the message, which is what we are providing through our redirect attributes. So here if you see, so here we have model.add attribute message. So here the name should be message. I missed this one. So this message is what we are fetching here. So this will come to your JavaScript variable. So here I have if else condition, so that I can make out whether it is going to be a success type or an error type, right? So this view to-do list is being redirected often, so that is why I have a lot of if else condition. These options are going to be common throughout all these conditions, so that is why it is kept as common, right? So I hope this part is clear. Now let's quickly add ToDo item page. So for that, again you will go to new file and then provide the name. So add ToDo item.jsp. Now let's write the code first, and then I'll explain later. So here again we have the same, or you can say similar imports. So this is similar to what we have done in view to-do list, and this is exactly same to what we have done in view to-do list. Now here we have a form with an action, which means that after saving this form, I want to be redirected or to be passed to the mapping save ToDo item, right? And the method type is post, and which is why we have a post mapping annotation here. Now model attribute is ToDo, which is the object which we are going to fill through this UI, and this object is passed down using your get mapping, and model attribute is here. Alright, now we have row and columns here because this is a grid structure which Bootstrap follows. So if you are not aware about it, it's okay. You can simply use form input text, which is very similar to what we have done in HTML as well. So it's not very tough. So it's pretty simple. You have input type, which means you want to input some data. It is a type text, which means you can type, and path is title, meaning you want to map this field, input field, with your ToDo variable. This is going to be mapped with this variable, right? So once you are done filling the data, and when you click on the button submit, so this is a submit type button, and when you click on this save button, then this ToDo object is going to be having all these input field information passed down to your save ToDo mapping and to this object, right? So that is the functionality here, and that is why we are using path argument here for each and every variable, right? Alright, so here you don't see ID variable because that is going to be auto generated, and that is why we have strategy generation type auto. Similarly, we have form input for date and type. So for date, type is date, and this is text, so this is text, but the default value is going to be incomplete because you are not going to add a ToDo item which is already completed, right? So here we can have only two state, either complete or incomplete. Alright, so we have code logic here, then we have toaster code here, which is similar to what we have done previously. So it's almost similar and more simpler. So I think we are done with our add ToDo item page. So now let's quickly run this application and let's try to add few ToDo items. So let's run this. Alright, so the application is started on port 8080. Alright, so webinf JSP, so I forgot a slash here after JSP, so let's do that. Let's go to application.properties and let's save this. Now it is being restarted, and yeah, it's restarted. Let's refresh this and I can see the page. So ToDo item list, we have all these columns. Now let's click on this button and we have a new page. So title is going to be, then I'll put down the date as, let's say, 18th, and it is incomplete right now. Click on save, and I see a bad error because validation failed for object ToDo, error count 1. So it seems the date is being problematic here. Failed to convert property value of type string to date. Alright, so to fix this, we just have to provide the default format which we are going to use. So for this we are going to use the annotation date type format, and the pattern is going to be YYYYMMDD. So let's save this and let's try one more time. Exercise, and then the date status is incomplete. That's good. Now let's click on save. Alright, item added successfully. Alright, so the item is added successfully. We can see the title, the date, status as incomplete. So we are good with this. So we have the code for my complete button, but we don't have data or the page for your added button. So let's quickly add added button code, and then we will test our mark complete button as well as our delete button, right? So let's come back to Eclipse. Now let's create one more JSP page. So edit ToDo item.jsp. So I'll be writing down the code first and then I'll explain line by line. Alright, so what is different here is we have a different title now, and this page is almost similar to what we have in our add ToDo item. The only exception is that you have a form input tag of your ID variable which is kept hidden. So this is because what do you do when you click on a row? Then you want to have that ID variable with you, so that once the user click on the save button, you want to know which ID or which ToDo item actually got edited, right? So for that, this ID variable has to be passed along in each step, and that is why it is kept as hidden here, so that user won't be able to see, and you actually get the information in your each step to actually do the computation, right? So this being the exception, everything else is same to what we have done in our add ToDo item.jsp. So a bit difference here as well, but that's okay because it's toaster library. It's not the core code logic. You can have customization here. It's just to say if something went wrong with the edit, right? So yeah, so now let's run the application again and test edit functionality. And remember to change this from create to update if you haven't, because every time you run your application it is going to create your tables again. So if you have kept the data, then it is going to be deleted. So update this. Alright, so now we have this information here. So let's try to edit this. So if I click on this edit button, then you can see the URL with the ID, right? So you can see every data here, and I can customize this. So let's say if I'm not able to do my task within the time limit, then I can extend this. So let's extend this to 20th. Then if I click on save, I see an error, and it is because edit save to do mapping. Okay, I think I know the problem. So we have added ToDo item here, and here we are trying to call out edit save ToDo, and this should be added save ToDo item. Okay, that's not an issue. Let's update the action here. Now let's restart our application. Alright, so let's do it one more time. Click on edit, change the date from 18th to 20th, click on save, and I can see item updated successfully. So the date is updated as well. Alright, good enough. Now let's see if I can mark this as complete. So let's click on it, and I see an error. Requested method get is not supported. Alright, so update ToDo status and ToDo controller. Okay, so this should be get mapping. Let's save this. And let's try one more time. Alright, so I can see it as completed, so that's good. Now let's try to delete, and again I see an error. So it says no value present. Okay, so I think I got null pointer exception or null data. So let's come down to delete ToDo item. here I'm trying to delete by ID, and then I'm trying to check if it is null. So if it is null, then I'm returning true, otherwise false. Alright, so I did a stupid mistake here. So if it is deleted, then how can I find this ID? So this method get ToDo item by ID is calling repo.find by ID and then get object. So that is why we are getting this issue. So instead we have to just call this. So let's change this. So if it is equals to null, then it won't be able to find that item, right? So that is why we don't need to get that object. So if it is null, then true, then otherwise false. Now let's save this, and I think the object is deleted already, so we may have to create it again and then delete it. So let's do that. So I don't have any data, as I said before, it got deleted, and the verification is where we got the exception, right? So let's create the item again. Now let's change this to, let's say, running. Date is 18th. Save. Now let's try to delete this. Some error occurred, couldn't delete item. So I got this error, but the item got deleted. So I think there is something wrong with the message toaster thing that we have in our view to-do list page. So okay, so here I did a stupid mistake again. So when we are adding this attribute, it is going to get overwritten by this one, and then it will redirect. So here I should return here as well, right? So let's save this and let's try for the last time. So I have to add the object again. So let's say test 18th, save. Now let's click on delete. Okay, not so good. Alright, so what is the mistake here? So we are using delete ToDo item method here. So first we delete the item, and then we are actually trying to find if there is an object with this ID or not. But see this returns an optional object, right? So it will not be null, and that is why it is returning false, which is why we are coming here and returning the message as delete failure, which is why we are seeing some error occurred, couldn't delete item. So to fix this, instead of having this null condition, we will replace this with is empty. So if it is empty, that means that there is no object with this ID, and it will return true as expected. Now let's save this, and we will try, hoping for the last time. Alright, so let's refresh this, add new item. So just a dummy data here now. Now let's click on delete, and item deleted successfully. So these are the 4 operations, I think 5 operations we have seen here. So first is to add the data, second is to edit the data, third is to mark complete that data, and fourth is to delete the data. So yeah, 4 operation, not 5. And this is your basic ToDo application, which you can enhance as per your need. So this is what I wanted to show in this video. So if you have any question, let me know on the comment section. The code is available on the GitHub repository, for which the link is provided in the video description, so do check that out. And this is it for this video. I hope that we will meet in some another video. Till then, have a good day, stay safe, and bye bye.